Good morning, class. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, 2020, and I have a friend here today to help me tell you about school. He just showed up out of the trees, so there he is. Let's go ahead and get started on our daily language review. There it is. All right. We have week 30, day 3, more insects on Earth than any other kind of animal. We're missing something. Remember, but in order to be a sentence, it has to have a subject, a verb. It has to have an end mark. It has to start with a capital letter, and it has to make sense. We are missing the subject. So, subject is there. And it's also missing the verb. Are. So, there are more insects on Earth than any other kind of animal. And that's the only thing wrong with that sentence. Most insects make our world a better place to live. Oops, I auto-corrected. Live is supposed to have an E on the end. And world is not spelled correctly either. It's W-O-R-L-D. And you do not capitalize the W. So, and then period at the end. All right, I think that's it. So there aren't too many corrections today. We're going to go on with English. And in English, we're studying two words. There, T-H-E-I-R, and there, they are homophones. They sound alike but mean different things, and they're spelled different. T-H-E-R-E. All right, there's a very simple way to remember the word, which one goes where. There belongs to somebody else, and there's an I right here. Okay, so it belongs to somebody. That is their book. It's not I. I is a pronoun, but there is also a pronoun. And then there's the word there. If you'll notice, the simplest way is here is inside the word there. It is not there. It is here. Okay, so you have to figure out there, T-H-E-I-R, tells who owns something. There is an adjective, okay? So T-H-E-I-R is an adjective telling to whom it belongs. All right, and there, T-H-E-R-E, is usually means in that place. The there, this kind of there, is an adverb. So is here. Here and there are both adverbs. All right. It answers the question where. So you'll be completing that sentence on page 91 in your English workbook. All right, moving right along. So I'll just clarify the bottom. Cesar Chavez continued his efforts to make sure migrant workers were given their rights. Give an example of how you kept working to complete a difficult task. If you write a sentence and put that on your paper, and you can just write it at the bottom and tell me that, or write it on a separate piece of paper, then then I give bonus points for that. So I'm giving bonus points for the sentences, the questions at the bottom of the page. All right, moving right along, we have spelling. Today is a spelling pretest, list 30 pretest. Just so you know, there are only 32 spelling tests in our whole book. So after we have this week, we finish this week, and then we have 2 more weeks of spelling, and then we're done with our spelling book. So that's exciting, especially for some of you. Do page you already did that page. Do page 100 and 120. It's a fill in the dots, so it doesn't take very long, but you just have to find the right answers. Do page 120, and then you've got a pre-test to take today to get ready for your test on Friday. Okay, in history today, let's do reading first. In reading today, we get, reading is a little bit of science, it is a little bit of reading, a lot of reading. Friends of the Prairie, we're going to be reading these pages, page 332 all the way. You read the whole article. It's an informative page. All the way to 339. Read those questions, and then we'll go over the vocabulary. Actually, if you would be really good if you read 339 first, and then read the articles, and then you could answer those questions in your head and just discuss it. But this is a fun article about prairie dogs, and you will learn quite a bit about them. Reading for information. What do you need to know? What are you gonna find out? One way to do it is to think of KWL. What do I know? What do I want to learn? And what I learned about prairie dogs, or about whatever you want to study. Start on the Friends of the Prairie. It's an article, which is a genre that it tells whose purpose is to give out information. All right. Next we have, and then we have, let's go on to our science. Today for our science, we don't even need our science book. We're looking at what God did in the very beginning. Genesis 1, verses 9 and 10 say, God said, let the water under the sky be gathered into one place, and let dry ground appear. And that's exactly what happened. God called the dry ground land, and he called the waters that were gathered together oceans. And God saw that it was good. So when God made the land, he gathered the ocean together in one spot, and then he separated the oceans, and he made dry land. And another word for dry land is dirt or soil. And those are things, that's what we're studying now. We're studying dirt and soil. There's lots of different kinds of soil. Even in this, it gets very, very complex. It's something you could even study in college, is to different soil types. We talk about soil types when we do reports for our customers and with the company, the forestry company that we have, and knowing what kind of soils people have on their land helps them to figure out what kind of trees they want to grow there. So think about the questions that I gave you in your overview, and that's all that is for your science today. So God created the land, and he created it by separating the water out from it. All right, in history today, we're going to be talking about the northern views on slavery. Remember, we're building up to the Civil War, which is the war where the northern part of our country and the southern part of our country drew apart, and they divided over several issues, and there were several things that made them very different, but it got to a point where they no longer desired to work together to get things done. Many of the northern view, these are states that are north of a line that they drew, but you can, when our country divided, this is dividing it into three different sections, because these states in the middle, which Tennessee was one of them, they were undecided at first, and so, but the northern states and the southern states. So the northern states, even people in the north didn't agree on exactly what they thought about slavery, or even people who had different skin color. Free states worried that slavery might spread into the different territories, the places that weren't states yet, and slave states would then run the country, and they didn't want that to happen. But the people in the north didn't like slavery, but that didn't mean they wanted the people who had different color skin to have the same votes or same rights as they did. Some people thought that they should, and some people thought that they really shouldn't. Some people thought they should have the right to vote. Others did not. Abraham Lincoln was one who thought that the slaves should no longer be slaves, but they should also have the right to vote and have the same liberty, have the same rights as given to everybody in the Declaration of Independence. He believed all people had the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but he said it was up to the states to decide if black people could vote. There were people up in the north who were called abolitionists, and they wanted to abolish or get rid of slavery, and they wanted to do it right now. And it caused a lot of problems. There was a book written at the time by a lady named Harriet Tubman, and she wrote a book about what life was like on some slave plantations, and It really got people excited in the North, and about the abolitionists thought that, really they started printing newspapers. And when Abraham Lincoln met her, he said, "So you're the little woman who started the Civil War," because he was she really got people fired up about making sure that the slaves had the opportunity to be free. It began to divide the whole country. Before it was kind of an issue, it was a problem, but people began to polarize and draw people apart. People in the North feared that slave owners were getting too much power, and people in the South thought that the North was controlling too much and telling them what to do. So there was an election, a presidential election, like that's coming up next year in 1856, and there was an argument over slavery. Now, there were two political parties at the time. There were the Whigs and the Democrats. Well, the Whigs up north thought they didn't agree with the Whigs in the South, and so they decided to make their own separate political party. Well, this divided the Whig Party, and the Whig Party up north decided to start calling themselves the Republicans, and the Whig Party down the South were still the Whigs. And so there were three political parties. When you divide a political party like that, a lot of times that political party loses their power, and the other political party will win the election. And that's exactly what happened with James Buchanan when he won that election. He was from the North, but he supported the South, and he got votes from both the North and the South, and he won that presidential election. He had a real tough time when he was president, and he really didn't handle. There were so many different issues. I don't know that anyone could really handle it at the time, but he didn't handle all those decisions really well. About this time, Abraham Lincoln was really starting to come on the scene. He had lost a lot of elections in the Senate and as governor, but he was starting to come on the scene. So you'll read about him. You can stop at page 235 and then pick up tomorrow at page 236. And this, like I said, this is some preparation for what's going to happen, and I hope we have some projects and some things coming in the works next week. But we have to get prepared this week to know what we need to know. You guys have a great day and enjoy your time. You guys take care. Bye.